Good evening. How are you? So we're still sailing down the East Coast and having a good time of it. And today we spent our time looking at snakes, and predators, and I'll include a couple of really terrific looking pictures so you can get some idea of what it's like. But there are several issues today that come to my mind that drive me crazy, and there's a lot that could do that these days with Trump in the White House. Waiting to take over the Oval Office again. First off, we Dems seem to really love to fight against each other and with sucker punches against one another rather than standing together. Why is it that there are so few that come out and say, who are Democratic leaders, that what Biden did was the absolute right thing to pardon his son? These people are worthless. Why shouldn't they could either remain quiet or they could attack the Republicans when they're doing much worse things, like promising by Trump to pardon all those people who were the insurrectionists who tried to overthrow the government in a case that ultimately resulted in an indictment of Trump that was dismissed by sleepy Garland and not so special assistant counsel Smith. This is the world we live in. So we have these Democrats attacking Biden for pardoning his son, Hunter. Now keep in mind that he had basically reached an agreement that was supposed to be satisfactory for all the charges against him. But the Republicans did not like it. It wasn't stern enough. It wasn't tough enough. So what did they do? They went about and they enhanced the power of the special counsel, didn't go forward with the deal that they had, and then we had sleepy Garland, who can get upset about Hunter Biden but not Trump. So much so that he spent 2 years fiddling while Trump was building up his attack to come back to the White House. The cowardice is rampant among these guys. We should be having a questionnaire. We could call it the Garland cowardice test. And if you fail that test, then you shouldn't be allowed to hold any public office. Now, the Republicans didn't like the deal with Hunter. Well, so what? You know, I had a case in Florida years ago in which I could not get justice from the courts. And so I did what you may do in many states and in the federal government. I sought clemency for my client before the governor of the state of Florida. And the cabinet, 3 of the 4, had to vote for it in order for it to happen, and they did. And this was the release valve that should have been unnecessary because the case on its own stood on on both feet squarely and persuasively. Abby Lowell has written a brief, a 57-page brief, which is persuasive and factual and to the point, and the Washington Post covered it because they got a copy of it. But nobody cites the elements of it as a justification, including these Democrats. What the hell is wrong with these, anyhow? We're not going to go very far in this next administration if we can't figure out how to fight injustice. So one of the questions this is a thought experiment. Einstein had thought experiments. This is not going to be as demanding as his on relativity. But ask yourself, if you were to sit on the stage at the inauguration and Trump was on that stage at that point to pardon all the people that were involved in the insurrection for his benefit, for him to steal the election from Biden when Trump had lost it, what would you do? Would you sit there and take it? Would you gag on it? Would you afterwards complain about it? Or would you do what I recommend? Stay away. Stay away. That is, not go and give your imprimatur just by your silent assenting presence to this man. It makes no sense. Are we going to be the loyal opposition? Do we believe that the things that this man stands for are evil and wrong and contra-constitutional and not democratic and monarchical? And if we do, then we should act accordingly. Go from the premise of what we're dealing with and who we're dealing with and act accordingly. Now, as for the people say, oh, how could you not show up for the inauguration? Well, you know, no less than John Adams didn't show up for Jefferson's because they were pretty heated at the time, and he left the evening before. He left town, that is. And what do we have with Trump? Did he attend the inauguration of Biden? No. So are we saps and fools? When somebody does something like this, you act accordingly. You know, and here's a guy who says, I'm not going to let you do any background checks of my people. Really? Okay, I'll tell you what. If I'm in the Senate, and there are 4 senators who could vote for this, and with Democrats could make it a fact, you could say, we are not going to have hearings to advise and consent or deny consent to anybody you bring up here who has not been the subject of a background check. Eat that. How about some simple ideas in government that are lawful? How about doing that? Do you think we could figure out how to do that? And why not? Isn't that what our duty and obligation is? The Constitution wouldn't have to advise unless it thought we had something to say, and consent, and we can't do those things if our discretion is not informed by the facts of a background check. So get a background check, come see us, and we'll ask you about that. And based on all of that information and that evidence and the interview and the hearings, we'll decide whether or not you go into the government. Everything that Trump says and does should be the subject of our concern. And if it's not, we are failing our position, both as citizens, but especially as leaders. We must have the sorriest bunch of leaders in American history to put up with this. And it's no wonder, and it is righteous, that it is compared to Hitler's Germany. Of course, Hitler had a mind like no one else, and Napoleon had a mind like no one else. And they were dangerous, but these guys are not geniuses. And I don't think they would know what to do if they actually could be in charge of the whole Senate. So I think, in the House and the presidency, I don't think they can do it. So I think we should be encouraging the members of the Senate at least, and Congress as well, to think about governing on those issues where they agree. And the first up are these nominations to run these departments of the government, because these are essential positions in our government. They define who we are to our people and to the world. And if we expect them to follow us and to agree with us, we have to do this right. We're not doing it right now. So those are those are a few of my thoughts. And you can see the ships nearby. We're not pulling out for hours yet. And I'll give you a shout tomorrow, and I'll send along some pictures of what we saw today. All the best. Bye-bye.